The moment I walked into that bar, I knew something was wrong. I wasn't supposed to be there. I had only stopped by because a coworker mentioned seeing my wife, Rachel, in that area earlier that evening. At first, I laughed it off. Rachel had told me she was working late, and I wanted to believe her. After all, we had been married for 8 years. I trusted her more than anyone in the world. But when I pushed open the door of that crowded bar and saw her sitting in the corner with another man, my entire body went cold. She wasn't alone. She wasn't having a quick conversation. She was laughing, leaning close, and looking at him in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. For a few seconds, I just stood there, trying to understand what I was seeing. The man across from her noticed me first. His expression changed immediately. Rachel turned around, saw me standing there, and froze. I didn't yell. I didn't create a scene. I simply walked over, removed my wedding ring, placed it on the table beside her drink, and walked away. The strangest part was that I expected to feel anger. I expected my hands to shake or my emotions to take over. But instead, I felt completely calm. Maybe it was because, deep down, I had been noticing the signs for months. Rachel had changed slowly. She started guarding her phone. She spent more time away from home. Simple questions turned into arguments. Whenever I asked if something was wrong, she told me I was imagining things. I wanted to believe her, because admitting the truth meant admitting that the person I loved might not be the person I thought she was. That night, when I saw her sitting with another man, all the unanswered questions suddenly had answers. I didn't need an explanation in that moment. I didn't need a dramatic confession. The way she looked at me when she realized I knew told me enough. As I drove home, I didn't think about revenge. I thought about the years we had shared and wondered how long she had been living one life with me and another behind my back. When I got home, I sat quietly at the kitchen table and looked around the house. Every corner held memories. The pictures from vacations. The furniture we picked together. The small things that only mattered because they belonged to a life we built as a team. I wasn't just grieving what I saw at the bar. I was grieving the future I thought we had. Instead of calling Rachel repeatedly or demanding answers, I made one decision. I would stop chasing someone who had already made a choice. I contacted my attorney and started understanding what steps I needed to take to protect myself and handle everything properly. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to destroy her. I simply wanted honesty and peace. Later that night, Rachel called dozens of times. I watched my phone light up again and again, but I didn't answer. The person who had been begging for communication for months suddenly had nothing left to say. And for the first time, I wasn't waiting for an explanation. I was preparing for what came next. The next morning, Rachel arrived home expecting anger. She expected shouting, accusations, and a fight. Instead, she found me sitting calmly at the table with a folder in front of me. She looked nervous and asked, "Can we talk?" I nodded and pushed the folder toward her. Inside were documents showing that I had already started the process of separating our lives. She looked at me in disbelief. "You did all this overnight?" she asked. I replied quietly, "No." I started doing it the moment I realized I was the only one still fighting for us. Tears filled her eyes. She tried to explain that the man at the bar wasn't what it looked like, but her words didn't have the same power anymore. I wasn't looking for excuses. I was looking at reality. The hardest part for her wasn't that I found out. It was realizing that I had stopped begging for answers. The ring I placed beside her at the bar wasn't just a piece of metal. It was a symbol that I was no longer willing to carry a promise alone. Rachel sat across from me, holding the folder with shaking hands. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't trying to control the conversation. She wasn't telling me I was overreacting or making me feel guilty for asking questions. She was simply sitting there, facing the consequences of her choices. She admitted that she had been unhappy for a while, but didn't know how to communicate it. She said the man at the bar was someone who made her feel noticed and appreciated. I listened carefully before responding. Feeling unhappy doesn't give someone permission to break trust. She lowered her head because she knew I was right. A difficult conversation is one thing, but hiding things and crossing boundaries is another. I told her that the most painful part wasn't seeing her with someone else. The most painful part was realizing she had opportunities to be honest and chose silence instead. For years, I had believed our marriage was a team effort. That night at the bar showed me I had been carrying the team alone. Over the next few weeks, Rachel tried to repair the damage. She apologized, answered questions she had avoided before, and admitted that she should have handled her feelings differently. She said she wished she had talked to me before things became complicated. I believed that she was sorry, but I also understood that regret doesn't instantly rebuild trust. Some wounds heal with time, but some changes cannot be undone. We started having conversations about what went wrong in our marriage and what each of us could have done differently. I accepted my own mistakes because no relationship is perfect. I knew there were moments when I could have communicated better or noticed her struggles sooner. But I also knew that problems in a marriage should be faced together, not escaped through secrecy. The difference between a broken relationship and a destroyed one is often honesty. Once honesty disappears, even love begins to feel uncertain. Eventually, Rachel and I reached a point where we had to make a difficult decision about our future. We could continue trying to repair something that had been deeply damaged, or we could accept that some chapters end even when feelings remain. After many conversations, we decided to separate respectfully. There was no public drama, no revenge, and no desire to hurt each other. We handled everything privately and focused on moving forward. Before leaving, Rachel looked at me and said, "I never thought placing that ring on the table would mean the end." I looked at her and replied, "Neither did I. But sometimes one moment reveals what has been happening for a long time." She nodded quietly. We both knew that the bar wasn't the reason our marriage ended. It was simply the place where the truth finally became impossible to ignore. Years later, I still remember walking into that bar and seeing my wife sitting with another man. People often ask why I didn't yell, why I didn't demand answers, or why I didn't create a scene. The truth is, I didn't need to. In that moment, I understood that my reaction wouldn't change what had already happened. The only thing I could control was how I chose to move forward. Placing my wedding ring beside her wasn't an act of anger. It was a quiet decision to stop holding on to a promise that only one person was protecting. I learned that love is powerful, but love without respect cannot survive. Sometimes the hardest moments in life are the ones that force us to see reality clearly. I walked into that bar expecting to find an explanation. Instead, I found the truth. And although that truth hurt, it also gave me the strength to choose a future where I no longer had to question my own worth.